Okay, guys, welcome to this live stream again. I still see a blank screen on my end, so it seems like we're still messing with it. But however, we're just going to continue and hope that it works out this time. So I hope you're having a lovely evening, a lovely day whenever you see this. If you're participating in the chat, you can always leave a comment. Yeah, they're messing with the audio. I don't know why they're messing. I don't know how to change it, you guys. Um, Yeah, I'm just gonna try to push through. I know I can hear it with the microphone. They're trying to mess with it. Okay, so you guys, this works out. So today, March 25th, or rather, when you see this, but my intent was to record it on March 25th. It's the actual new year, and that's exciting. So the actual new year, according to the old calendar, which was the Julian calendar, and people in Great Britain and a few other countries celebrated it on that day too. So there are a few different dates that are floating around. Some states March 21st on the equinoxes. Others say it's April 1st. But that old calendar system actually gives us the date of which the 25th is a pretty fortunate date as well. So we're gonna just say March 25th actually rings very true to me. And that's nice, right? Like, 2 months after the other New Year, it's quite nice. It feels like a fresh new start. Now here, it's clearly still a little bit winter. We had summer temperatures about a week ago, and now we're back to winter, but whatever. So, for those people who were wondering, I want to show you the aura pictures that I dug out. And I have a few more, but these were the ones that I could find. Like I didn't want to dig too far back in the past. Hi, Scotty boy. You missed the first 5 live streams that ended after a few seconds. So this is one. Okay, the first one that I took is this one actually. And this one's kind of purplish. You have a little bit of red. No, sorry, red is over here. And then you have that green yellowish. So very nice colors. The huge purple is really what I love the most about this one. And then a year later I took this one, and this one is very green and it has blue, similar to the top that I was wearing then too. So I think a person commented if this is Kirlian photography, if I'm not mistaken. And I looked that one up because I do think it is. But I'm not 100% familiar with that type of photography. It seems to be a similar concept, let's put it that way. They do, when you do take this picture, so another person commented whether or not you can just use an app. So the way that you take these pictures, they're Polaroids, as you see in the back. They measure your body temperature somehow. So you put your hand on this device, and then you have to look into that camera. That camera's from the 70s. So I do think it's the same as the Kirlian photography that was around back then, the Aura camera, exactly. So you put your hand on that thing, it measures either your body temperature or something else. They explained it to me once, but I forgot because it was so long ago. It was like 6-7 years ago. And then it's connected to this other device that leads to that camera. The camera's pretty huge, by the way. It's not like a small thing. And then usually you're in this enclosed globe or dome-like structure. And I think that's necessary for no other light distraction to come through, is what she said. So very interesting concept. And I took it with this one person who used to travel all over the US with her device and everything. I think she was originally from Oregon, but then she moved here to New York too. And then I think right now she's back on the West Coast. Her photography used to be very affordable, but I think now she wants 2 or 3 times as much as she wanted back in the day. So I'm not necessarily going to recommend her anymore because it really ticked me off when I saw her current prices. I was like, what? Like she used to charge for the first picture, this one right here, I think she charged $30 something, which is somewhat reasonable. And then the second picture already, which was a year later, she wanted 40, 45, which is still okay, whatever. But then this year, when she came back to New York City, or she was doing her little tour, she legit wanted over $100, like 100 and something. And I'm like, I don't want to say it's disgusting, but it's kind of disgusting because nothing has changed about your service. Yes, we are in inflation in that sense, but at the same time, like it's just, to me, I'm always grossed out when the price changes like that for no real reason. So what you can do is there are a few metaphysical stores that charge around still the same price. I think it's like around 30-ish or 40-ish dollars or whatever. So you can always go to those, at least here in the US. I know they have a few in Sedona. I went to one in Sedona, but I couldn't dig up that picture anymore. And then some of them give you a whole interpretation as well, meaning, ooh, what do all the colors mean? And so you get like this list of colors. So it's really, really cool. And this is exactly what I meant by aura photography for those people who like photographs and maybe want to have their aura photographed. Okay. This kind of photo, it was esoteric stuff, I think is what you're trying to say. Yes, exactly. So hi to everyone. Yeah, hi to Mahala as well. All right. So that's the thing that I just wanted to mention. Actual New Year aura photos. I think we're going to go straight into the eclipses because I have a huge article that I want to share with you on it. And I'm really irritated by this blank screen still. So right now, this is going to be a long article for those people who are wondering. Like, we're probably going to have the entire live stream just about it. But the article is how to deal with the eclipses. And I'll also put it in the description box so you guys can read it after this live. And I found it so interesting. I came across it a few weeks ago. I personally have never been someone who was always into this eclipse stuff. What I always noticed from like 2016-ish on or 2017-ish on is that, whenever the eclipses came around, especially when they were in the summer, because back then they were always in the summer, they were always around like June, July or whatever. When that season of eclipses came around, people were extremely angry, extremely agitated, at least here in a city that's so big. So you do pick up on a lot of people's moods, especially around like certain type of full moons, like super full moons, those type of things. And for me, it's always a sign that, the more people are plugged into that, the more people are plugged into that AI technology, because it's basically what it is, the more it's trying to jump onto you as well. So with eclipses, I've kind of always noticed it to a certain thing, but I was never really like super into it until I started analyzing all these things. And I went back to 2000, because I'm someone who loves to analyze, like I have this analytical mind, and it's probably somewhere in my chart too, if you want to go the astrology route. But basically, I've always been very analytical. So I went back all the way to 2014-ish, which is around 10 years ago. And from then on to here, just to see if this article that I'm about to share with you is kind of true. And I do have to say, because back then I was going through a lot of job and work changes, I was really trying to just set my foot in the door in these different industries. A lot of it did happen typically around one of the eclipses. And it makes a lot of sense to me in hindsight. Like in hindsight, everything makes sense, obviously. But in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense to me because there were some pretty bad experience that I made in certain work situations, which I do think could have probably been a bit averted or avoided or solved in a better way had it maybe not necessarily happened around that time. So we're going to go into this, and I think it's going to make a lot of sense to you as well. Let me get this ready. And you can confirm whether or not it's true. What I do want to share beforehand is some insight on the actual eclipses, because I do think the sun is an artificial construct and everything. So I'm going to share a bit of insight, and then I'm going to do the other one. So officially, eclipse season has started. Technically, I guess yesterday, March 25th, when the actual new year was this year. And they're during different times. Similar to Mercury retrograde, they're always during a different time. So the year before that, in 2023, I think it started around April something. So this year, we had a lunar eclipse on March 25th. And in the next 2 weeks from then until April 8th, which a lot of people are trying to demonize April 8th and make it seem like something big and bad is going to happen, right? April 8th is also going to be in the sign of Aries, by the way. So Aries is always about marching forward and action. And that's really the energy we're in right now. I think Scotty Boy would know that very well, wouldn't you? So April 8th, we are indeed in this quiet, precarious time. Energetically, you may have already picked up on that, but this time of year is usually very turbulent, the eclipse season year. In addition to all of this, we're also entering what? A Mercury retrograde from April 1st to April 25th. And this is going to add a lot to the chaos that we're already experiencing. You know, I started this live stream, 5 or 6 times over again. The pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde started on March 19th, which is almost a week ago. And the post-shadow is supposed to go until May 13-ish. Yeah, like May 13th or so. So yeah, we're in it for quite a ride, you know, almost for those 2 months straight or 6 more weeks. And overall, one cannot deny how all of this may or may not have an influence on your daily life, interactions with others, the political clown stage that we're really witnessing right now, or your own personal journey, or just the other aspects of our lives. So we're going to go through some helpful advice, how you can understand and navigate the eclipses better. And before that, I just want to share what I was reading on it. That was like a few days ago, so I have to pull it up. Didn't have it ready for this one right now. So what did we get on the eclipses? Everything's kind of slowing down. Eclipse season, we need to ride it out, is that one first thing that came through. So I was just asking, are eclipses part of the matrix technology? You know, like that one video I had, matrix technology, everything's part of it. And this is very interesting. So I kind of got this visual of seeing flashlights in the dark, and it could have been epiphanies, or it could have been like a part of tech. I also got like this lightning, you know, when you see thunder and lightning in the sky. But that eclipses can also be somewhat natural. So it feels like it's the older tech than the other tech. So what we see with Schumann resonance, what we see with the newer tech that's coming up, eclipses feel like they're part of the older tech. And maybe it's the type of tech that came from the Atlantean times. So the old Atlantean times, which were still in it in a form or another. It felt like it was a recreation of nature, or how things used to be as well, which I found really interesting, because when we look at the current stars that we're surrounded by, I do think that the stars that we see right now are not necessarily the stars that we had thousands of years ago. So we're seeing a projection of something, and it could very well be like we're in this cave underwater reality. Then you have the water that's above us, or something that's above us that they're saying is the sky, but it's really not the sky. And so they're projecting the stars onto it. And then once you go through all of that, somehow you're going to see the real stars, or maybe they were destroyed like thousands of years ago. And so it seems similar to that what the eclipse is right now is just like this recreation of how things used to be. So they're definitely using some form of tech to recreate it, but it still used to be a part of nature. So in a form or another, we're going to be influenced by it. It's going to be, I don't know about you guys personally, but this entire weekend, I had so many things planned and I barely did anything. You know, I was supposed to meet with a lot of people. I was just supposed to go out, have a little bit of fun, you know, like just recreation. Just everything that you want to do, right? So I couldn't do much because I felt so tired, and I haven't felt this tired in a really long time, like really, really long. So rest could be very helpful for some people right now. Also having natural salts and hydration as per usual, probably also the usual magnesium, calcium, whatever we need when they throw all this stuff at us, right? I also asked on whether or not the economy is ever going to get better. And what I got on that is going to be, we're going to have to do it as a group effort. We need to overturn the system somehow, because right now people really aren't in the best of states, or at least some people aren't. And there's always going to be enough for all, but they're making it seem like there's not enough for all. So this entire, like, you know, poverty and lack mentality, they're really throwing that at a lot of people right now. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive into this article on eclipses. Eclipse and retrograde, I know. Okay, Donna, this is an excellent question. Donna says, we don't even know what an eclipse really is. It's not what they tell us. Yeah, this is correct. The reason it's being hyped up right now here in the US is because in certain states, it's supposed to be on this path where you can see it. And a lot of people are comparing it to the 2017 eclipse, which is a little bit ridiculous because, well, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not like, I'm not coming from the viewpoint that all these different scientists are, oh, yeah, it's similar to 2017. But like energetically, it's really not the same. So, what the article says right here, got to see if this is the right one. It's from astrologyzone.com, and I'll put it in the description box. How to deal with eclipses. The eclipses are dramatic wild cards in our horoscopes. They are some of the most dramatic tools that the universe uses to get us to pay attention to areas in our life that needs to change. They uproot us, surprise us, and get us moving. They shake us out of our feelings of complacency so that we can move from one level of maturity to another, to somewhere else, and they work very rapidly. Eclipses want us to change, and change we do. And I feel the reason we might notice it more this time around than, say, a few years ago or maybe even a year ago is because right now we really are in this huge year of change. Here in the US, we're going to have a major election coming up a few months down the line. And I don't know about you guys, like I can feel it. Like I've never been able to feel it as strongly as now, that this is really something that's going to change everything again. And yes, we all know that it's not even necessarily about whoever we're voting for, because whoever they already know who they want in office anyhow. But it's really going to do this collective change of how people are going to interact with each other, how people are going to live their lives after that. So it's not, we got more than 6 months, right? We got 6, 7, 8 months until that point. And yeah, you can already feel it all over the country. So what I also want to say is I didn't even notice up until recently that every time we have a leap year, we have an election year. Did you guys notice that? Like, I didn't even pay attention to it until this year. I was like, what? Leap year? Because with the leap year, they're changing our time, right? Like I already said in other videos, we're in this entire time trap where we're living on their calendar system, we're living on their appointment system, on their clock system, on their time system, on everything. And with this entire leap year, a lot of things get messed up. Like a lot of biological things get, like the biological clocks, just the way we're used to it, in addition to the daylight savings time and the other time ending and then being rolled out again. And every time there's a leap year, we're having an election year. Yeah, you didn't notice that. I know. I didn't notice it up until this year either. I was like, oh, this is so strange. And it is not a coincidence. I can tell you that much. Because, yeah, it happens every 4 years, and the elections happen every 4 years too. And every time we're having the elections, we're having a leap year, at least here in the US. I know for people in other countries, it's not the same. But that is so strange because with a leap year, they're already uprooting this entire year for us. They're making it a little bit different than other years. And I do wonder if energetically it has a lot of impact on the elections. Let's put it that way. So I do think they're trying to always put us on a different timeline when those things happen. But yeah, maybe someone else wants to say something about that. So some basic information on eclipses. This is just random astrology info. Eclipses always arrive in pairs, coinciding with the new moon and the full moon as solar and lunar eclipses. Right now, on March 25th, we had a lunar eclipse. On April 8th, it's a solar eclipse. They appear in a family of signs that are joined on the same axis. Said in another way, eclipse families come in pairs of signs that are found exactly opposite of each other, 6 months apart on the horoscope wheel. For example, in 2015, we had eclipses in the Pisces Virgo family of signs, and then a solar new moon eclipse on March 20th, and so on. So it was like Pisces and then Virgo, which are on opposite sides, such as Leo, Aquarius, Gemini, Sagittarius, all of that. And in 2016, the same thing happened. 3 eclipses in the Pisces Virgo family of signs until that was finally left behind with Libra, Aries, and all of that. So I'm sure there's a meaning to that. But A family of signs will keep occurring in pairs, coinciding with new moons and full moons every 5.5 months for 18 to 24 months until they are done. At that point, your transformation will be complete. And once the family of signs is finished, it will not be back for about 7 or 8 years, which is pretty significant, actually. 7 or 8 years, the entire life has changed during that time frame, right? If you look at it that way. Okay, now to the part that is interesting. First of all, difference between the solar and lunar eclipse. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon stands between the sun and the earth, everything artificial, cutting off the light of the sun. And the lunar eclipse occurs when the earth stands between the moon and the sun, cutting off the light of the sun from the moon. Any eclipse is a significant event. In truth, a solar eclipse is really a new moon on steroids, and a lunar eclipse is a full moon on steroids. That is a really interesting explanation because some people go completely crazy on a full moon. And if you just imagine it's going to be a full moon on steroids, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it has a strength of 3 new moons or 3 full moons. So here are a few points and tips to bear in mind. Understanding and coping with eclipses. Number 1, eclipses bring news of life's big events. An eclipse can bring news of a birth or a baby, an engagement or marriage, a promotion or career breakthrough, important travel, the signing of a vital business contract, or the start of one's own business. It can bring the sale of a purchase of a house, a move to a new home across the country, an acquisition or a loss of a family pet, a surgery, or an important health development. It might bring a college graduation, or the eclipse may mark the start of your course of study. Eclipses sometimes bring on a divorce, a newly published book. You get the idea. Monumental events, meetings and partings, or changes within your career may also take place at an eclipse, and they are dates we usually long remember. And if you actually go back, just if you're interested in it, if you kind of go back, because I went back, up to like 10 years ago, and you just go back in your own personal life and you kind of remember what happened during eclipses, because I kind of do, like certain markers in your life, like whenever you broke up with someone, whenever you started a new job, whenever you were moving, those just kind of stick in our mind and we kind of know around what date it was. And I do have to say it was somewhat accurate for what this article describes. It's somewhat accurate. Yeah, the eclipses really did bring a lot of change in my life so far. No matter what occurs, it will become evident that the universe is intent on moving you forward. Eclipses often mark a major turning point. If nothing happens to you, it may be happening to friends and family around you, depending on the precise degrees of the planet in your chart. Number 2, with all eclipses, something ends and something else begins. During an eclipse period, it is as though you will walk over a rickety old bridge. As you walk across this bridge, over a very deep, rugged, treacherous ravine, you may be a little nervous. Once you make it to the other side, the bridge will collapse and you will see the pieces fall far into the deep, perhaps making you jittery. The bridge snaps just as you get to safe ground, but you realize first that you could have been on that bridge when it fell, but you weren't. And more importantly, you will never again be able to walk back over to the other side. I think this is such a beautiful explanation, to be honest with you, because when something major happens, right? Like when something, like let's just say someone betrays you or something really, messed up in your life happens. It's true. You can't go back. You're never going to be able to unsee or cover your eyes from what was really going on. So yeah, I totally agree with that, actually. And you guys know I'm not someone to really follow this astrology stuff at all, but I found this was a really good explanation they're providing. Once we go through an eclipse, we can never go back to the former situation again, for the universe wants us to make progress and not go back to good old days. That option is taken away forever. The only way with an eclipse is forward. If you find later you don't like where you wind up, you can always have the option to make changes up ahead. But again, they must be future choices, not ones that bring you back to the past. The changes could happen instantly, but they can also occur over a period of months with each successive eclipse. Still, the news of those changes often comes as a shock. So it tends to be a shock. That's fine. I'm good at burning bridges. I know, Scotty boy. I was thinking about that term too when I read it. Burning bridges, basically. Solar eclipses tend to create new beginnings and bright new opportunities. Usually, they are exciting, are often very positive, and bring news out of the blue. We always need to see the kind of conversations a moon or the suns have with the other planets to judge if the eclipse is completely friendly or not. And your own natal chart will matter too. So you're just going to write a note on your calendar about what happened during these eclipses. And I feel that's really a good way to work through them too. Lunar eclipses are more emotional, for they bring on final endings. They often make us aware of the passage of time and make us sentimental. And I do have to say, it's actually true, because right now we just had the lunar eclipse yesterday. And supposedly lunar eclipses are more felt by women and solar eclipses are more felt by men, as this article also points out. So I found that very interesting because some people might agree with that. A full moon lunar eclipse is almost always an emotional time. Memories and dreams come up to the surface, and sometimes we feel sentimental. I do have to say, I've been dreaming more during these past few days, so that would make sense. Someone's commenting, the moon is AI evil. Well, so is the sun, so is everything around us. Like we kind of discussed that in the beginning, but that's not really the point of me reading this article. Okay, so number 3, each eclipse in a series is united in theme and is strung together like pearls on a necklace. Each eclipse in one family of signs will advance the discussion that the eclipse first brings up to a higher, more sophisticated level, and keep doing so as each eclipse of that family arises until the matter is resolved. So by the family, they mean the Pisces, Virgo, the Libra, Aries, all of that. By then, you have evolved too. It is as if the universe knows that we can't possibly process all the information and massive change it needs us to do at once. So each eclipse will bring another development related in theme to the ones that came before until the matter is finished over an 18 or 24 months period. So it's a larger period, a lot of change. So let's just say with the last eclipse, you had an idea and it might be completed like a year later or 18 months later, which also makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, at least. As said, however, only eclipses that are mathematically significant to your natal chart will affect you, not the ones that are too far away from touching planets in your chart. Those may have only a very mild effect or none at all. This is why you need to have your horoscope chart. So if you have a lot of these signs in your chart, it makes sense. A lot of it does make sense. I do have to say that. So some eclipses are going to affect you more than others. I will always tell you the degrees and precise birthdays of the sign that will be affected by the eclipses, and there are other ways you might be affected, and this is going to be covered too. So number 4, eclipses will bring a random event you do not expect or didn't know about. It will be triggered by an event happening elsewhere, and that is completely outside of your control. But at eclipse time, bring vast changes will come straight to your doorstep. I might be able to explain this idea more easily if I give you an example. Let's say you are an agent for a top recording artist. You have been good to your client, working hard for him for years, and when you took him on, no one else would even meet with him. But you saw talent in this person, and although he was completely unknown at the time, you built him into a superstar. His talent plus your hard work put him on top of the industry charts. Another agent has now come in to poach your artist and has offered him an attractive contract, one you could never match. Your competitor feels that by getting this artist, he will be able to get more name artists. This artist is your main source of income, and you have always been loyal to one another. You felt you both were happy. On the day of the eclipse, you receive an email in error. It is an email that you were not supposed to be copied on, but on that day, you received it. It reveals the secret talks your artist has been having with the other agent. So basically betrayal. Until the eclipse, you had no idea. that these talks were going on behind your back. You will have to talk with your talent quickly to try to dissuade him from leaving. He is ready to sign the other agent's offer. Honestly, because it's an eclipse, your efforts might be futile, as once an eclipse comes by, the results tend to be final. Of course, you should make an attempt, but make sure you make a dramatic move. In this instance, you will have to fight fire with fire. As you see, outside events or actions of others that you did not know anything about and that were outside of your control can create forces of change on a massive scale in your own life. As a result, you may reassess your assumptions, your business strategy, and the way you conduct business. Maybe you will feel that you had too many eggs in one basket by allowing this one artist to account for such a large part of your income. Maybe you will feel you were too trusting or did not remain competitive enough. You probably will have to draw up a quick plan to attract other talent to your stable. Eclipses often form a time of complete evaluation, for they have the power to change everything related to the area of your life that eclipse is emphasizing. This is a full different energy, I feel for sure. Yep, some new emotion. So Dana's saying, do these changes only affect Americans or is it on a global scale? No, it's on a global scale, of course. I don't think this article doesn't say whether or not it's written by an American. There are changes on a global scale right now. So, yeah. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to believe that things are happening in the outside world over which you have no control or knowledge. And the control would have the power to trigger conditions of such massive change at eclipse time. But that is precisely what can happen. It can be a big or small event that changes everything. In the latter case, it could be something as small as finding a torn ticket stub in your mate's pocket while doing laundry that eventually reveals a secret affair. Indeed, often at eclipse time, an important piece of information is given to you accidentally. Still, no matter how the information comes to you, it can set off a chain of events that will force you to see things in a new light. Number 5, eclipses speed your sense of time and change the timetables. I do agree with that. I've never felt like so confused by time than in these past few weeks for sure. And so I do think they're messing with time during this particular eclipse season, or just, I mean, they've been messing with time for the longest time. What's a different word for time? I feel I've been using time at least 10 times. The example with the artist, maybe I should knock on some doors. Yes, Yannick, now would be a good time. But on the other hand, it's also Mercury retrograde, so maybe not yet. Meta time. Eclipses bring events that you assumed were months or years away right up to your front door now. Let's just say that you plan to marry in 2 years after you and your fiance saved up enough money for a down payment on the house. Now let's say either you or your partner suddenly gets a big promotion that will require one of you to move to London. You will have to accept the offer immediately to take advantage of that new position. Suddenly, your marriage plans will change in an instant, and you and your fiance may quickly marry in your own country so that you can move to England to begin your new life together. Timetables can change in the blink of an eye. There is always a feeling of life moving very rapidly. It is life on fast forward or great acceleration. Sometimes an event will make us sentimental at eclipse time, as we are very cognizant of the passage of time. Number 6, the job of an eclipse is to shine a glaring ray of truth to the part of your life that is being touched, and truth will likely arrive in a startling way. So it's basically all about a shock event, perhaps. Temporal flow. So Bright Flame is saying, I've looked at all of these eclipses, and except for a small period of my life, which was 10 years ago, there were very rarely major changes occurring near eclipses. The article said you have to look at your chart and see which, because right now I think we're in the Aries Libra one, but actually I don't know. Honestly, don't ask me. I don't do astrology. So look at your chart and see which of these signs affect you the most. And so maybe that was kind of the year where whatever's in your chart was also what the eclipse was going through. I think that's kind of how this person explained the eclipses, and that's why some were felt more by others. So some people might not even feel this eclipse as strongly, but I do feel actually, I mean, everyone felt the October eclipse, honestly. Everyone felt what was Gaza, basically, the entire Gaza situation exploded then, you know? So I think right now we are in this strange period of time, or the same strange period in general, where everyone may be feeling it. And I think this is also why I want to discuss the article. So truth will likely arrive in a startling way. Eclipses are brilliant illuminators, revealing a truth about a condition that you never knew in a million years existed. Once you are given the information, the news can act as a catalyst to a major decision or action you will take. Most often, we are shocked or surprised by the information that comes to us, for the eclipse is one of the most dramatic tools the universe uses to get you to sit up, pay attention, and take action. Eclipses are always your friends, for they are there to help to protect you. Always be grateful for the truth. I do agree with that, because the more you live in the dark and the more you live with deception around you, the harder it gets once you get hit by the truth. So it is better to know it sooner than later, obviously, just so you can get on with your life. Here is another way to think about the way eclipses work. Imagine that a puzzle piece fell out of the sky into your hands. This new piece offers information, and when added to the overall picture of your puzzle, will change the complexion of the situation and bring you a flash of insight. You may say, for the first time, I understand. Now you have a full picture of the situation and can make a fuller, more realistic appraisal of what it means to you. You will also know what you must do next. This is the experience of an eclipse. Um, it sounds like it's ideal for manifesting something quickly. I think this article covers manifesting, but if it doesn't, I'm going to probably say something about that afterwards. So, number 7, an eclipse, especially a full moon lunar eclipse, will help you to see the true character of someone close. Brace yourself. You may not like what you see. Yeah, I think I've actually already noticed this, to be honest with you. It is hard. So it's kind of like you're seeing the person's potential, and you're seeing it through this pink, the pink sunglasses. But I kind of feel with the eclipse, you're putting those off and seeing who the person really is, and not just their potential. And I feel that kind of hurts more, right, than kind of being in this weird la la land where, oh yeah, the person's so great, and then whatever. It's hard to see someone's true colors, but if you are being shown this, be grateful, because you might have been operating in the dark for much too long, putting yourself in jeopardy. Once you know, you can make appropriate plans. Number 8, take any message you hear from an eclipse as non-negotiable and firm, so accept it and then move on. Realize that there is little or no chance of getting things reversed. Eclipses demand that we move forward, not backwards, to the way things used to be. Save your dignity. Do not plead. Eclipses are final. So let's just say someone betrayed you, or someone fired you from a job. Just move on. I kind of get that too. If you break up, don't plead for the other person to come back. If you are truly heartbroken, the soonest you might be able to try again to get a reconciliation would be in precisely 4 months from that date of the eclipse. That's being called forming a trine aspect to the eclipse. That would be your only option. But be aware that finding a permanent remedy to mend the problem is not likely. The eclipse wants you to have new experiences, so keep your eyes open for what is to come next. So that's kind of like all these abrupt endings that you witness in others, where, okay, this one person broke up and then a few months later they're married to someone entirely different. And I'm like, what the heck happened there? And I don't know, that does make a bit sense to me because I've seen it in my own personal life with other people. Number 9, take notice of all news and signals you get near an eclipse and take them seriously, even if news comes as subjective and ambiguous as gossip. While sometimes news at eclipse time will be delivered in a dramatic and obvious way, at other times the news will come in much more subtly as secret or a piece of gossip. Nevertheless, it will foretell dramatic changes to come. The fact that you are hearing this near an eclipse means you must listen and investigate. Do not ignore it, or by the time the next eclipse comes by in 5.5 months from the date you hear this piece of information, the situation may have gone bigger. Sometimes you are able to head off difficulties by paying attention to the signals you pick up at eclipse time. Number 10, it is vital you guard your health if an eclipse falls within 5 days of your birthday, or if the eclipse falls almost exactly opposite your birthday. So if your birthday is on February 1st and the eclipse falls on August 1st, it's still significant as that's the 100 degrees away and it's aimed directly at you. And if the eclipse falls close to your rising sign degree or any planets in that first house, it will be felt strongly in terms of health as well. So I guess this is for all the Aries and Libra people right now, because that's what the eclipse is in. Okay. Number 11, eclipses almost always bring up all kinds of unexpected changes of direction, assuming your sun, moon, or a planet is touched. Number 12, occasionally an important person to you will be eclipsed out of your life. A solar eclipse generally points to a prominent male in your life, so often a man may leave, and that's during the solar eclipse, which is around April 8th, by the way. If you are to be affected, you may break up a relationship with a man or see that your boss has quit and is leaving, as another example. And astrologers generally use the following pecking order when trying to determine which man it may be: father, husband, grandfather, prominent boss or business associate, or a client or a male friend. Lunar eclipses, which is the one we just had yesterday, are generally female. A female friend may say she's moving away or getting married, and you may not see her as often in the future. Your relationship may likely change quite a bit, or you may have a falling out. You may never see each other or speak again. Let's hope not. The usual order we use for a lunar eclipse is mother, wife, grandmother, prominent female boss, client or business associate, or female friend. This is generally the case most of the time, but occasionally these genders will swap out, and I'm not sure why, is what this article says. Just trying to go navigate this too. Number 13, events brought on by an eclipse always have much more weight than events brought on by a normal new or full moon. Even though eclipses coincide with new and full moons, they are much stronger than a regular new or full moon. And you can think of eclipses as new or full moon on steroids. They pack so much more energy and punch than a normal illumination of the sun or moon. In fact, they feel like they are 3 new or full moons rolled into one. An eclipse may even bring on an event that seems fated in some way. Number 14, try not to issue ultimatums or make big actions under an eclipse. And I really feel that actually with this one, I do have to say so. It's almost like we're a little bit on standby. I don't know. I mean, just the fact that it was just so tiring even the weekend before. But I do feel a lot of things are put on standby. So if you don't have to make a major decision right now, I probably wouldn't. Because in addition to this, with the Mercury retrograde and everything, it's just a bit of a crazy time. And it's not even necessarily that it's going to affect just you, but it's just because all these other people around you are under the influence of this too. It just seems very chaotic. So try not to issue ultimatums. Bide your time and act a few weeks after the eclipse, at a time when less static will fill the air. It's best to respond to others' messages, but not to initiate your own. Said in another way, it is better to listen and respond than to issue announcements and ultimatums. So I guess no live stream anymore. No. So hold off on beginning new ventures at an eclipse time. I think I've heard that from a few people before, actually. If you need to sign a contract, try to add several days beyond the date of the eclipse to sign, when your judgment will become stronger and sharper. Let's just say you have a great new apartment and the only day you can move in is the first of the month, the same day of a total eclipse of the moon or the full moon. You didn't choose that day to move, your landlord did, or events just worked out that way. In this case, you are responding, so it's fine to act. Now, let's say instead of that example, we have another instance. Let's say you want to have a major talk with your sweetheart because you're unhappy about something in the relationship. Do so later, well after the eclipse, not on the eclipse when you won't have such a highly charged atmosphere. So it's more about, it's just being a very charged time and people being very reactive during that time. And that's really something that I've noticed too. I do have to say that, like, especially even the week before this week, just the people that are very emotional around me, not even people I'm friends with or anything, just like on the streets and everything. You can definitely feel it, at least here. I don't know where you are, but everything here feels like it's on steroids anyhow. So it's always a good landmark and a good pointer to use when people are talking about energies and everything. Having said that, eclipses tend to get truth to the surface very fast, like a geyser of water forcefully rising to the surface. You may not keep things inside, even though you plan to do so. The first example shows an action someone else is asking you to respond to. If your landlord good, you can respond to any changes the landlord brings up. But the latter is an action you chose to take under the eclipse, a talk with your sweetheart, not such a good time to do so. The ancient astrologers always wrote that if you act under an eclipse, your plan would not work out quite the way you expected, and it will likely not be to your advantage. Of course, every eclipse is different, and some are friendly to your planets and some are not. That's why it's better to consider the ideas of others at eclipse time, but not to make proposals or decisions of your own at that time. Um, if you are a manager or own your business, do not hire anyone at eclipse time. Give 10 days after the eclipse to add to your staff. If you must act at an eclipse time, make it a solar new moon eclipse. For that one will open new doors and create new opportunities. If you know an astrologer, be sure the eclipse is friendly to the natal planets in your unique chart. Okay, let's see if there are any more comments. Okay, sorry, that was a lot of water. I also feel really dehydrated these past few days. I think water came into my nose. Okay, so Bright Flame is saying, the eclipse is in my career house, Virgo. Well, if you're mixing Vedic and Western astrology, I'm not sure how that works. So I'm taking hardcore Virgo-like actions on my public social media image, writing it all down. That's what I did all day today. Well, let us know how that goes for you. It would be interesting to see if this had an influence on you or not. And Priestess is saying the truth does come out very quickly. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true, actually. Yannick is saying, yes, dehydrated. I feel more this day. You're talking like, is it Yoda? Yeah, like, these weird sentences that he had, like the verb is first and then the noun is yes, Vedic astrology has their own Virgo and it's very similar. Okay, so back to point, we're almost done here, by the way. Back to point 15. If an eclipse falls on your birthday or within 5 days of your birthday, which right now this would be Aries season. Okay, I know there's at least one Aries watching this. The year that follows that particular birthday will be a critical one for you. You may experience a big change in lifestyle or a massive change in one specific part of your life. The same is true if the eclipse falls on your rising sign, the first house of your chart. So your old life may now fade into history as a new one shapes up. And I do feel we go through those, like some people call it, what is it, the solar return? No, not the solar return. One of those returns that usually happens around the age of 27 to 32-ish. So yeah, I mean, if eclipses are a part of that, I'm not really sure, but it's definitely a thing that everyone kind of changes their life around a similar time frame. Number 16, eclipses that are in the same element, fire, air, water, or earth, as your birth sign are generally friendly and helpful. So right now they're in Aries. I mean, if you're a Leo, if you're a Sagittarius, it should somewhat be helpful. Let me give you an example. If you are a Pisces, water, there's an eclipse in Scorpio, water, generally it will be positive for you. Of course, the closer the degrees of the eclipse match your sun, the better, and the more important the eclipse will be for you. I do have to add the disclaimer that we always have to look at all the planets involved in your chart and see how they're aspected at birth, but generally this rule will be true. Eclipses in the same element are often friendly to each other. So, you have all the elements like Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, and so on. Number 17, at eclipse time, keep your schedule light and elastic. No matter what is on your agenda at the time, something else will come in to demand immediate attention. Now, this coupled with Mercury retrograde that's going to go on very soon, I do think it's very sound advice. I just want to put that out there too. And I do have to say, a lot of things that we plan, we're already being thrown all these distractions in the way. So might be another thing to watch out for. Number 18, Leos tend to feel new moon solar eclipses strongly because the sun is their ruler. Said in another way, the sun rules Leo. Now, number 19, Cancers tend to feel full moons and lunar eclipses strongly as the moon rules Cancer. So the Cancer signs would feel yesterday's eclipse very strongly. Once the family of signs is finished, it will not be back for 7 or 8 years. For example, as soon as the Pisces Virgo series of eclipses are done on February 26, 2017, that series will not be back until September 17th, 2024. Okay, so this is interesting. So we're approaching that right now. I'm assuming this article was written in 2017. So if you just look back to 2017-ish, which for me was actually a huge year of change, of enormous change, we're kind of approaching that same cycle again with September 2024. And I think the next eclipse, so right now we're having the one from yesterday till April 8th. The next one is going to be September 17th and October 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. Number 21, gold star point. Eclipses repeat in nearly exact degree in sign every 19 years. Also interesting. So it's important to keep in mind that other planets in the sky will have since changed position, and no year is ever a carbon copy of any other year. But still, by looking back 19 years, you may be able to come up with a theme that will teach you something. The author is using this example. The most dramatic example I can give you is the one that affected me. My daughter, Diana, was to go to college for the first time on an eclipse that fell on August 30th. It was the day her father was driving her to Boston College, and I was a little worried because there was an eclipse that day. I was hoping all would go well, that the drive there would be uneventful, and that Diana would like her dorm room. I thought, well, I can look back 19 years ago, but wait, I thought, I can't because Diana was only 18. How could the previous eclipse in the same sign and degree of 19 years ago possibly affect her or me? I did the math and realized, much to my shock, that 19 years earlier, to the precise day, I had found out I was pregnant with her. The first eclipse 19 years earlier taught me to be a mother. I was now learning to be a mother again in a different way by letting my little bird fly away independently. As I realized this, I got goosebumps all over. The universe runs on time and is a source of vast wisdom. I will never forget the moment I realized this. I found this example really interesting. I do have to say that because even though it's never going to be the same, right? This example kind of highlights like we're going through the same lesson or learning experience that maybe was 19 years ago, just in a different way. I'm not saying this like in the new age way of, oh, we have to do these lessons to advance spiritually. No, I actually see it in a way of, wow, like we're actually being repeated with this strange moment where it's like, wow, okay, like what kind of what are we being looped in over and over again? That's kind of what it reminded me of. Number 22, the 4 eclipses coming up each year will arrive in the same degree, sign, and precise day as those that came by 19 years earlier. So, as said, sometimes it's helpful to look back to those years to see what themes emerged at that time so that you can predict what might come up for you now. Just take 19 years from the present and look up to see what happened at eclipse time from the table that is posted. 23, you might ask, does an eclipse deliver its news on the very day of the eclipse? Not always. This is important, so be sure to read this. A message brought to you by an eclipse is usually delivered on the day or within a week of the actual date of the eclipse, but not always. If nothing happens, then think back to exactly 1 month earlier and 1 month later, plus or minus 5 days. So, for example, your birthday falls on February 26th, and eclipse is coming February 26th, or you were born on August 26th, exactly 6 months away. Watch January 26th, which is 1 month earlier, plus or minus 5 days, and 1 month later, March 26th, plus or minus 5 days. So you have to do a lot of math here, is what I'm just deducting from all of this. If neither period delivers any news, then watch for the days when Mars or Saturn will move. Okay, this is typical astrology where that's where astrology loses me. If nothing happens, just watch this and this. Okay, whatever. So watch for when Mars or Saturn will move over the precise degrees of the eclipse, oppose it or challenge it in that regard. I will let you know when that is due to happen in my column. Okay, so here's a visual idea of what I mean. Let's pretend that an eclipse burns a burning hole in the sky, say with a cigarette, when it appears. It doesn't, but only in the poetic sense here for our purposes. Afterwards, the sky forms a scab over the part of the sky that has been pierced or hurt. Later, when Mars, the warrior planet, takes the same route as the eclipse did and reaches that scab at the same mathematical degree and sign as the eclipse, something may happen. Being the rough and tumble guy that Mars is known to be, he will break that scab open and the news of the eclipse will be released. This may also happen if Mars is in the opposite sign of the eclipse, but same degree. Saturn, being a karmic planet, can do the same if he is close enough and is due to travel over the same path, the same sign, same degree. You don't have to watch for any of this. I would tell you all about it when it happens, and this is on Astrology Zone. So you don't have to calculate. You can just follow this thing if you want to. Number 24, you may be feeling more emotional than usual under an eclipse, especially if the eclipse is lunar, full moon. I do think that very strongly. Scotty Boy is saying a lot of math and a lot of remembering. I know. I know. But this is going to be important for you, Scotty Boy, because supposedly it's in your sign or whatever. Your judgment may be impaired or pieces of information may be missing. So bargain for more time to think about your decision or next action. You may want to wait 7 days before deciding, but that is not always possible. If someone comes to you with a proposal, consider it carefully. If after looking at it from all sides, you like it, then proceed, but try to beg for just a little extra time. 25, do not have an overpacked schedule at eclipse time. Keep your schedule light because urgent things often come up at eclipse time that will need your immediate attention. You may see your life change as a result. Maybe hire helpers in your own personal life if you need more hands on deck. 26, don't be too quick to pronounce an eclipse good or bad. All eclipses have a second act. An eclipse may bring news suddenly, but it takes weeks to understand its real meaning. If you should suffer under an eclipse, consider that perhaps the situation is being swept away so that the universe can provide you with something better. Be patient and keep an open mind. In the fluid situation it creates, you can find ways to benefit. As an example, Mary has worked at the same company 15 years and does her job very well. Her raise has been so little as to be almost non-existent, but she was so loyal to her employer, she would never think of leaving. Now comes the eclipse, and she's downsized, meaning fired. Mary is terribly upset, worried about how will she pay her rent. And if you ask Mary, she would say that the effect of the eclipse on her has been catastrophic. However, the universe and its wisdom knows Mary can parlay her experience and qualifications for a much more interesting and well-paying job. The universe clears her basket so it can provide her with something infinitely better. And in 2 months, Mary found a wonderful new job, and she only then realized what a blessing in disguise the eclipse has brought her. Yeah, I've known situations like that too. Actually, I've known people who were just, fired for the worst decision. Like just it made no sense why they were fired, and then literally a few weeks after they found such a better job. So I do think things do happen for a reason. Um, but of course, it can seem upsetting when you're in that situation, right? Number 27, eclipses can help you do things you never thought you could. So, in a way or another, I guess they make you stronger. There seems to always be a give and take. Yes, I agree with you. How many more points are there? Let me see. Oh, we're almost done. Okay. Losing patience here. Eclipses can show you that you are capable of much more than you assumed. You may be offered a chance to write a book or to record an album or be the head of an entire department of your company. Eclipses sometimes will suddenly open a door, and it would be one that was previously bolted shut and impossible to enter. Here is a good analogy of an eclipse. You are riding a horse in unfamiliar, beautiful terrain. The horse's trainer told you that you would have to jump a tall stone fence 10 miles down the road, but you're distracted by the lovely scenery. You completely forgot about the fence until it looms suddenly straight in front of you. You certainly don't feel ready to jump, and you doubt you ever will. You can't imagine going over the fence and surviving. It's just too big of a stretch for you. Yeah, it would be something you wish you could do, but in panic, you try to pull on the reins of the horse to try to stop it. However, the horse has been trained to jump, and before you know it, you're flying through the air over a fence you feel is scary high. And each second you are in the air, you feel you are moving in slow motion, for as up you go, and over the massive stone fence. Eclipses play with your sense of time. The horse is doing the jump for you, and you land perfectly. So you're fine, the horse is fine. You just feel very shaky and breathless, and you're counting your fingers and toes, but you did it. You feel so proud. That's often the experience of an eclipse. Some important information for the eclipses: 28. Not all eclipses in a family of signs will affect you. Some will, some won't. Math will make the difference. So you just have to look at your own chart, I suppose. 29. The eclipse does not have to fall in your sign or rising sign to affect you. Let's just say you're in Aries. There will be an eclipse in Gemini. Don't tune it out, because that eclipse may cause you to sign a contract, take a sudden short trip, or hear news about your sister and brother. The point is, you don't have to just be a Gemini or the opposite sign of Sagittarius to feel it. And the rest is about rising signs and birthdays and everything. Okay, I think in summary, that was it. Record an album. Well, you need the contract. Yeah, I think it's probably not the best time to do much of that right now. But I guess everyone kind of has to just know on their own. Like for me personally, I just feel it feels more like hibernation than everything. Why is that screen shaking? That's annoying. Sorry, guys. It's like motion sickness. A lot of great info, Scotty boy. It's certainly not the right time. No, it just feels like pure chaos, doesn't it? Bright flame. I suggest looking at the house it occurs in, as well as the sidereal. I think it's sidereal. The Western both makes sense. Libra is about relationships and business, and it's also the 10th house for you. Oh, sidereal is Vedic. Chaos is a ladder. Yeah, it is complicated. A lot of this stuff is so complicated. This is why, right. Okay, anyhow, but I hope that kind of made sense to you guys. And that was about the eclipses. So overall, in summary, is it a good time to manifest something? Well, it depends, honestly. If you feel it is, maybe for you it is. For me right now, like the intentions are out there, but I don't feel I really don't like, let's just say you want to move or something, unless you really have to, I just don't feel it would be an ideal time. Just because we're having this entire mess with the eclipses, and then we're having this entire mess with Mercury retrograde, and like that combined is really just a chaos, honestly. And I'm really not someone who's easily sidetracked by these things, but I do know the effect that all of this can have, like Mercury retrograde in particular, can really have. So yeah, might be just a bit too much right now for all those things. But it must be a great time for other things. You know, for example, if you've been wondering whether or not a person is betraying you, right now could be a really good time to find out whether or not this is true. Or yeah, maybe you're being pushed in a direction that you're supposed to be going, and just like in Mary's example, you're supposed to be in a much higher paying job or something like that. Scotty Boy saying, I agree, I'm just going to write it and play it by year or a year. Yeah, and a great time to plan children. Why is it a great time to plan children? That's funny. Okay, you guys. I mean, I honestly, there's always so much to talk about, but that was the huge major thing I wanted to discuss. So if you have other things that you want to discuss, just pop them in. Let me look at my notes here real quick. I have a video coming up. It's already recorded, so it's probably going to go live later on this week. My cats recognize your voice. That's cute. You have more than one cat right now. I had this video. I put a lot of video on the other social medias like Instagram and TikTok with AI, the nurses that are basically being replaced by AI right now. And that was announced by NVIDIA. So I'm going to have a larger video on that later on, I think closer to the weekend potentially. But it's a strange reality we're living in right now. And what I did come across was there's a restaurant here in New York, which I forgot to mention that in the video, but there's a restaurant in New York. I think it's close to Madison Square Park. So it's Flatiron District, Midtown. And it's called Colonel. And it's basically employing a main robot and 3 workers only. So usually it's similar to Shake Shack. For people who are from this area, it's similar to like a Shake Shack or a different establishment like that. So I think it's a bit fast food, but more like higher end fast food. So it's not like a Burger King or McDonald's. It's similar to other burger joints, from my understanding. I don't know. I've never been there. And usually those places definitely need more than 3 workers, you know? So this place in particular has 3 workers only, and it has this main robot, which is slicing up all the burgers, all the French fries, everything, and doing all the work for them. And in the same article, there was also mentioned that coffee shops want to do the same. So basically just replacing the job of a barista and everything. That wasn't hard to deduct at all. I think they were definitely discussing that 1 or 2 years ago already, but it's shocking to see it happen in real life, and especially in this city in particular, because obviously it's going to be implemented in a larger city first. What could possibly go wrong there? I know. What do you think about the polar shift? Okay, what exactly do you mean by that? Let me look this up real quick. Is that something that's new, or is that just in general, the polar shift? Change of location of these poles with respect. So the cataclysmic pole shift. I don't know. I would have to read on that, honestly. I think I read on it once. It's very hard to read on these things, by the way, because a lot of it is just you're being kept in the dark so much. There's so many psychic blocks on them. But I think I read on it once, and it was a mix of, if this is the pole shift that you're talking about, which I'm not really sure you are, but I think it was a mix of that and also something else. And a lot of it had to do with Antarctica, which every time you're supposed to, every time you're trying to read on Antarctica, you're just psychically attacked to such a degree that you can barely read on it. And when I see other remote viewers or so-called psychics just blob off on Antarctica, I'm always like, you're just being, they're putting this projection on you. Whatever you're being shown, it can't be a whole lot because everyone else gets psychically attacked except for you. So they're either controlled opposition or something else. But there's a lot of dark stuff happening down there. The pole shift happens at around 12 degrees, it seems. Basically, the north and south magnetics are supposed to switch soon. Okay, what's soon? Like, how many years are we talking? Supposedly, our poles are overdue for just everything becoming cataclysmic. I'm not sure what's happening there. And I know you know who Jordan Sather is. Oh, Jordan Sather's controlled opposition. His energy, he once attacked me back in 2019. And when he attacked me, like in an actual social media post that I commented on, I could feel such anger. And back then I didn't know what it was, but now I know. He's just infested with AI entities around him. He's complete controlled opposition, similar to Corey Good and all these other people. Otherwise, he wouldn't be talking, honestly. The way he talks, the way he has his newsletter, because I was also subscribed to this newsletter and everything. Yeah, he's just one of those whistleblowers that are being pumped out by all these secret government programs. I agree on Corey, and Jordan seems kind of inhuman. Yeah, probably they don't have a soul, honestly. 2033 is predicted. Okay, so they're giving us all these 10 plus years in advance, which by the time that comes around, no one can really verify that anymore, right? Similar to 2040 and on. I don't know. I would have to read on it, honestly. So, okay, what else was here? What did I write in my notes? Oh, yes. Are realtors not needed anymore? Real estate agents are going extinct, just like travel agents were. This one award-winning professor says you just don't need them anymore because of the internet. Right now, what we're experiencing is this entire real estate bubble bursting. And so it appears that more and more real estate people are going to be losing their jobs. But to be honest with you, they already have over the past few years, just because the internet, like you can find everything on Street Easy, or you can even verify what the history was for the house, how much people pay for it or rent it out for. So in a way or another, real estate agents are actually quite nonsense. Well, I don't want to say nonsense because I do know people that were my friends who worked in real estate, and I do know the struggle with all of that. But on the other hand, here where I am, a lot of real estate has been bought up by China. And this is also true for other places like Mexico City, the same issue. Where no matter where you go, it's all bought by something. Like in Australia, it's all bought up by China. It's not a secret. People know that over there too, So everywhere, no matter where you go, how rich, how poor the country is, a lot of it is being bought up either by these huge corporations or by a strange entity that just wants to park the money there. In other countries, it's like half of Russia buying up the real estate. If you go to Cyprus, if you go to Bali, Indonesia right now is a huge one because they were trying to escape the war. They don't want to be drafted into their Russian war. And so a lot of people just escaped there from Russia. So it's a huge mess, honestly, which there was this one comment on Bali that was so good. I want to read it. But yeah, real estate in general is just a huge mess, but supposedly the bubble is slowly and surely bursting. That's a good thing. Now let's just hope the mortgage rates go down too. I'm trying to pull up this Bali comment. I have to go on my one page. Sorry, guys. Oh, and they're trying to revoke the squatters' rights as well. Okay, Yannick, you posted something about this Queens woman losing her apartment. Well, okay. That's been going, like, the news is just now covering it, but that type of thing has been going on for quite a while in New York, and I'm surprised the news didn't cover it for longer, because I even know people, they didn't own their place, but they were renting it. It was like a friend of a friend, and this is back in 2017-ish, before I was even here in the city. So they were just Airbnb-ing. Was the Airbnb around back then? Or maybe it was a little bit later, like 2012-ish. Whenever Airbnb came around, I think it was around that time, they started Airbnb their place, obviously illegally, because you're not really allowed to do that when you're renting. And they Airbnb'd it to this French couple who legit, they came, they switched out the locks, and the person lost the place because of it, because the French couple knew that if you just squat for a certain amount, like they could squat for almost a year and they would never get evicted. That's basically, so it's been around for quite a while already. But it's now just being picked up by the news in a mysterious way because more and more people are doing it, obviously. My neighborhood is legit half Chinese. It's the second language here. Hi from Australia. Hi, Sue. Scotty Boy saying, wow, that's insane. So yeah, it is insane in a form or another, but it has been abused for probably the past 10, 15 years here in New York already, you know. And I talked about this with a friend, you know, with a guy friend. I was like, well, what did you, because he was Airbnb too at one point. I was like, well, what if you do if something like that happens, you know? And this friend was originally from Texas, but he's been here since 2001 and on. And he's like, if that ever happens to me, like he was just implying he would beat them up and change the locks again and everything. But now we have this case where, you know, the woman from Queens tried to do just that. And then she got arrested by the cops because the squatter called the cops on her. And I already knew, you know, back then, I already told my friend, well, you can't just do that. You can't just change the locks on them because they could call the cops and you could go to jail. And he didn't, because he was from Texas. There are different laws in Texas than here. And he just wouldn't understand that the law in New York wouldn't be on his side. So it's hard to understand until it actually happens to you. And the eviction here in the city has always been a mess, not just from 2020 on, but even before that. You know, I know people who were supposed to be evicted, like, you know, it's legit. How long did it take the landlord to get them out? Like 9+ months, if not longer. The courts are completely backed up. It's not high on the priority list of them to do. And I even had, like, you know, because I had roommates back in the day. I had this one roommate try to sue another roommate, and then the landlord was trying to go there. Like, it was this huge. You can laugh now because you're not in that situation anymore. But when I was in that situation, we were really just trying to get out of the apartment because one of our roommates had completely turned psycho. I just remember her writing me a bunch of messages and letters being like, okay, so my court date right now is in March and will you appear as a witness and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't really want to, but if I have to, I will. And then the court date kept being pushed out and pushed out. And so we were March, and then it was May, and then it was like, it's almost a year until this thing never really happened. So to be honest with you, it's a mess. It's always been a mess. And so that's just in reply to the Queen's woman being evicted out of her own place. But yeah, it's always been messed up here, to be honest. New York City's always been a city that kind of favors the renters over the landlord, from my understanding. And that started turning around in the 70s already. So it's something to consider. But they're doing it now in Florida and other states, which probably didn't happen up until that point. And that's happening because people are desperate, for sure. That's the only reason that's happening. A lot of Australia. Wow, I guess it's the perfect Australia time. Had to Dottie too. Okay, I'm trying to pull up this one comment from Bali, which I thought was so funny. Someone left a comment recently. Technology is really messed up. I can already tell. We're already under the influence of all of this stuff. Okay. So, great video. I just recently came from Bali, been there for 2 months. It's truly fascinating. It's a truly fascinating island, and people are so kind over there. However, foreigners are overtaking the islands and real estate prices are increasing. Therefore, for local people, it's harder to stay in the more touristic areas. It's really crazy. In recent years, Bali has been so much urbanized and commercialized a lot. And you said it true. The island is Hindu origins. People sometimes look like hypnotized, and they believe in animism. I actually don't know what animism is. In smaller villages, they are doing low magic rituals, and they're burning incense in a precise planetary time, probably right now during the eclipse season. And sometimes it can feel a little bit exhausting. It's not different in Lombok in terms of rituals, as the locals are practicing magic even more in Lombok. So that's interesting for me to know, because when my one friend went there like a year ago, at first she thought it was great energy in Bali, but then the more she was there for like 2 weeks or whatever, the more she started noticing that it would get very dark in certain areas where they would travel to, because they were kind of traveling all over the island. And I really do think it has to do with all the magic rituals that they're doing over there. We have a renter that makes trouble here in my building, and we're trying to get rid of him. I don't know how the laws are in Canada, Yannick. I don't know how they are in the Quebec province or whatever. But if they're similar to here, good luck with that. Bright Flame is saying, you're an animist, at least to some extent. Animism is basically the religious understanding that shamanism tends to synchronize with the understanding that all things have energy, a soul, a consciousness. It also tends to flow with nature, worship, etc. Like Shinto is an example of an animistic religion, and most ancient people are Okay, I'm going to look up animist. The attribution of a soul to plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena, or the belief in a supernatural power that organizes and animates the material universe, a village steeped in ancient animism and rituals. Is it a pagan? I guess in a form it could be paganism, huh? Taoism and Shinto are the most world religions associated to that. They are protected as well. We got some troubles with squatters, and can't read that word because the emoji is in the way, and a renter, and coloc or renter. Yeah, I would assume Canada is similar right now, Yannick, because you have a really bad person in power, and that person's basically useless. And just seeing, is it still Trudeau? I'm not sure. But basically seeing how the homelessness has really risen in Toronto and other places in Canada, nothing's impressive anymore, is it? It's kind of sad, actually. Wow, we're already 1 hour and 22 minutes in. That's crazy. Scotty Boy saying fancy word for pagan. I know. No, I'm not an animist. I'm not a pagan. He's in Canada too. Yep, he's in Canada. But he's in the French speaking part, so they don't really say a. They say, what's the French word for a, Yannick? Yeah, J is here. I stopped with angel numbers, but yesterday I saw the 111, 222, and so on. What do you think? Yeah, they're just throwing it out. They're throwing it to mess with your life, honestly. Just ignore it. It's always so cute. You know, I look at my watch too, and it's like, oh, 1111 or 1111 or 222. I'm like, wow. Back in the day, I would have been so enamored by it, but now I'm just like, no. They're trying to drag you back into the Matrix angel number thing. Feifei. Yeah, I don't know. We're not making fun of the French A, but it would be interesting to know what it is. Oh, here's a good one. I think this came from Rosemary. Is it possible to escape the controllers if they get in control of you? Yes, absolutely. So you can always escape whatever they're throwing at you, obviously. And I think that's also what the course Combat the Matrix is really about, which I didn't announce in this YouTube live, but I think you've been following this channel. So Combat the Matrix is now live. Amazing, excellent course, by the way, for people who want a shorter experience. Not as long as a Be Your Own Shaman course, and it has completely different topics. But basically, you can escape the controllers, absolutely, but they don't want you to, the matrix controllers don't want you to know that. So they make sure you forget, or you're being kept distracted constantly. And just asking about these angel numbers here, it's a distraction, honestly. Do you think that YouTube's code includes the repeating numbers? Because I see them more on YouTube. Well, YouTube is AI and angels are AI, so it wouldn't make sense. I haven't paid attention to it, but probably, yeah. Like they think to round the numbers up and down, so we see them repeating more. What I've noticed with YouTube is sometimes I click on a video and it literally says it only has like 2 or 3 views, and then I refresh it and it has like 23 million views or whatever. And for me, that little glitch in the system just shows me that some of these million viewed videos in actuality only have very few views, like maybe 23 people watched it, but that they're really infiltrating the numbers with the entire bot system that they have going and the AI algorithm and everything. So it's always so funny for me when people kind of come to this channel or other smaller channels or whatever, and they're like, oh, you're just jealous, because Shannon Blake is a perfect example, because I still get so many comments on her videos, like all these psychopaths that just leave random comments saying, oh, she's just an innocent girl. No, she's not a Freemason. No, she doesn't do any of this demonic signs, blah, blah, blah. So all those people that still leave comments, I don't care about your comments. Like, honestly, shove them up your ASS. I really don't care. Like, this is not a fan club for Shannon Blake channel. And people, for some reason, people are upset. I don't know why you're upset. The views are still only at like 6,000 for that video. There are videos on her that are reviewing her that have like 100,000 views. Like, go to those channels. Stay away from this one, honestly. Anyhow, so some people are like, oh, you're just jealous because you don't have like 1 million followers. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, because honestly, those people who have those 6 million followers, like all the celebrities, they're all AI bots anyhow. They're not real people. And that's kind of, it's always there to make us seem less significant, to make our message seem less significant, you know, but in actuality, just put your content out there. You're going to reach the right people, and you're going to reach real people, as opposed to these AI bots that all the other VIPs and celebrities are reaching. They play with the numbers big time. Exactly. You can overcome anything. She has insectoid energy. Yeah, she has a very strange energy for sure. And when people read energy, that's what they pick up on, right? It's so odd when people attack you, like they personally know the person they defend. No, they don't. And a lot of these attacks are just AI, honestly. Like a lot of these attacks, I would say more than 50% of them, it's not an actual person. It's really just AI. You know, like they have a machine where they just send the bots to videos like that, I swear. Like, these aren't real people. What are your thoughts on cosmic agency? Well, I don't have any thoughts, but there was this one feed in my Telegram group where people were posting something about her. Was it her being a PORN star somehow? Or, you know, I couldn't take that. After seeing that, I just couldn't take that channel serious anymore. It seems to be legit. I don't know, but I don't follow that stuff. You know, like they talk about aliens, they talk about whatever. I don't follow that stuff anymore. People were also saying, what's her face? What's her face? The Australian girl who was commenting on my appearance. Let me pull up the review video. It's like over a year ago. The one with a lot of makeup in her face. Oh yeah, JCK from the Blue Mountains close to Sydney, Australia. Someone commented, oh, you can take your video down now because she converted to Christianity. And I'm like, why would I take the video down? Like, she's still misleading people with her act. So whatever. I actually know a guy who builds bots, and plus JCK attacked me personally. Like, she was making fun of my appearance. And I didn't even react to that, because for me, honestly, when someone stoops so low to that level where they attack the way you look, it's just a huge insecurity that I see in them. And I'm like, well, you just revealed everything we need to know about you, honestly. And it wasn't like something that I make fun of other people's appearance too, don't get me wrong, but she was literally attacking that, you know, she's going on and on and on and on. And I'm like, Okay, JCK, but you know what? I actually do post videos of me without makeup. Maybe not with these, but when I go out in the field and I'm like traveling, I do post a lot of videos without makeup. I'm not the one who puts like a ton of makeup on my face, who always talks in a specific way and all of that. So it was just so weird to see it from her. And it kind of brought a lot of my Australian memories back where I was like, yeah, a lot of Australians, yeah, I mean, you can't overgeneralize. I really did enjoy my time in Australia. Let's just put it that way. Okay, Jay, did you miss the beginning? Because we literally talked for an hour about the eclipses. So, how to protect from the eclipses. Yesterday, post eclipse, I had a massive headache and body ache. I had a massive headache today, and I felt tired all weekend long. I just had this hour-long recitation from an article about the eclipses. So once the life is over, go back. I'll put a timestamp in this video for when it starts. But we were all enjoying it so much until the math came into play. And I think you will find it very, very informative. So I'll link it below in the description box too. And you can just either go through that article or you can go through me just repeating the article, and it will probably help you a lot. But I feel in general, what I said in the beginning is you need to stay hydrated. You need to get all the magnesium, all the calcium, probably all the other minerals in right now, because they're really depriving us of that. Let's put it that way. Okay, and it also it's like this entire speaking, you're just stumbling over your words. Like, do they use a certain machine where you can barely talk? I forgot what machine they use. It's one of those techs that other people talk about in their videos too, where it's like, oh, all of a sudden you can't talk anymore in the right way. My hair looks weird. Like I have to look at this one thing. It's getting late, guys. How far have we been in this? Wow, 1.5 hours. Okay, I think I'm going to close this down relatively soon. I actually know a guy who builds bots. He literally has like 10,000 robots he uses to message people for marketing. Yeah, it's not always just platforms. He runs AI through the social media accounts. Yeah, there's this one thing called social envy where they literally sell it to you. And I think back in the day, you paid $10 or $13 a month, and they would literally just send all the bots to you. So people were just like 400 people would like your picture, and they would all just be bots. So yeah, for sure, it's not just the celebrities. The kid and that's so funny to me when all of a sudden you see a person blow up, and you just know they're using bots. You know, especially when they're just talking about complete nonsense too. The kid I'm talking about isn't even 18 yet, but he builds bots. Yeah, it's once you crack a code or whatever. I seriously have stopped watching 80% of channels I used to follow. I don't have time to follow anyone really. Wow, that's horrible. It says everything about her. I think her jumping on the religious train says more about her, actually. Okay, I'm losing my voice. Okay, another person commented saying, like, is there a relation between something with the throat chakra, which I don't even think it's the throat chakra necessarily, but the throat and quitting a company, or once you quit a company, you're able to talk again. So yes, I don't, this entire chakra or whatever, if you believe in that, that's cool. But I do think there are certain parts in our bodies that are literally being shut down, especially when it's a highly traumatizing job where a lot of people bully you, or you're just not able to speak your truth and be true to yourself. Let's put it that way. So, I mean, I do feel energetically in the astral, they can definitely close down your throat, just like they're doing it right now too, by the way. So there's a lot of components to it, but yeah, in short, of course, your throat can be impacted in a corporate setting like that, because for sure, a lot of people are not able to be who they truly are. And then that's when our throat really clamps down, right? And that's because you're picking up on it energetically as well. So, all right, you guys, we're more than 1.5 hours in. This was a really entertaining live stream. Thanks for pulling through with the entire Eclipse season explanations. And if you've missed it, just go back. I'll put the article below. I put the timestamp below too. And thank you so much for joining. It was really nice to connect to you. I hope you're going to make it through this time. Also, it's Holy Week for those people that are really into that. And it's going to be Easter later on in about a week from now. Not yet Orthodox Easter. I guess that's closer to May. Wow. Wow. And now I can barely speak. Bright Flame is saying Gute Nacht. People always get it wrong. You have to get your genders wrong. It's Gute Nacht, not Gute Nacht. But whatever. We have like 3 genders in German, so that's okay. Looking forward to hearing the Eclipse section. Yes, you have to rewind. I forgot when it starts, but basically, yeah, that's better. There was something else I wanted to mention. Right, so we're gonna have a bit of a rough time maybe until April 8th. Just keep that in mind, and then of course we're gonna be in the retrograde. But no matter what, at least we're in it together. And I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave your comments below if you're tuning in afterwards, and talk to you very soon again. Until then, guys, have a wonderful one.